दूर ज्ञान के हो अंधेरे, तू हमें ज्ञान की रोशनी दे, हर बुराई से बचते रहे हम, जितनी भी दे भली जिंदगी दे, इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, हम चले नेक रास्ते पे हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना, इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना। हम ये सोचे हमें क्या मिला है, हम ये सोचे किया क्या है पर, हम न सोचे हमें क्या मिला है, हम ये सोचे किया क्या है पर, फूल खुशियों के बाटे सभी को, अपना जीवन भी बन जाए मधुबन, बैर होना किसी का किसी से, भावना मन में बदले की होना, हम चले नेक रास्ते पे हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना, इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना।
Thank you so much, Prashanta. That was a beautiful, beautiful bhajan. And actually, I don't know if you know that, but Dad loved that song so much. So I am actually very grateful to hear that from you today. Thank you so much. My dad had 10 brothers and sisters. He was one of the 11. He had a great, great family, and there was so much love and so much laughter in that family. We are very, very fortunate to have with us today his youngest sister, Mrs. Leela Gupta, and her family, our Pupaji, Mr. Satya Prakash Gupta, a daughter Swati, son-in-law Vipul and their children, and son Shivam and daughter-in-law Shreya. Leela Bua was almost like a daughter to my dad. He and my dad were 18 years apart, I think. Yeah, 18 years, right? Yeah. So he looked upon her like a daughter, and she fulfilled that role more than I ever did as a daughter. He trusted her implicitly and was very, very proud of the way she and Pupaji had lived their lives and raised their children. And Shivam and Swati, you guys were like his first grandchildren. Talk about you. He scolded you like, like you would his grandkids. So you guys were his first grandkids. So I'd like to invite Leela Bua and Swati up to the podium to share a few memories of Dad.
11 भाई बहनों में सबसे छोटी मैं हूँ, और भाई साहब ने मुझे हमेशा अपनी बेटी की तरह प्यार किया और बहुत प्यार किया। मैं हमेशा उनका प्यार मेरे दिमाग में रहता था। मेरे पेरेंट्स तो बहुत छोटी उम्र में, मतलब मेरी शादी के बाद ही चले गए थे, लेकिन काफ़ी लंबे समय से भाई साहब मुझे हमेशा केयर करते थे, हमेशा ध्यान रखते थे कि मैं क्या कर रही हूँ, कैसी हूँ, कहाँ हूँ। और मैं भाई साहब को हमेशा अपने पेरेंट्स की जगह, पापा की जगह ही देखती रही, और वही मुझे हमेशा याद रहता है। मेरी मम्मी और भाई साहब, तो भाई साहब शायद तब 20 इयर्स के ही होंगे, लेकिन डॉक्टर ने इंग्लिश में बोला कि दिस गर्ल है, इसको कुछ पोलियो टाइप हो गया, ये कभी चल नहीं पाएगी। तो मेरी मम्मी तो इंग्लिश में बोलने से कुछ नहीं समझी, लेकिन मेरे भाई साहब को इंग्लिश में सब समझ में आ गया, ये तो बड़ी सीरियस है, इस लड़की को ये ऐसे कैसे छोड़ दूँ। तो उस यंग एज में भी उन्होंने पूरे 1 महीने मेरी बहुत केयर करी, मेरी मालिश करी, मेरी मेडिसिन का ध्यान रखा, और उन्हीं की मतलब केयर से और उनके उस कंसर्न से आज मैं चल फिर पा रही हूँ। शायद नहीं तो मैं कभी बेड पर ही होती। मैं इस बात के लिए तो हमेशा दिल से सोचती थी, भाई साहब ने इतनी छोटी उम्र में मेरी इतनी केयर करी और हमेशा उसके बाद भी करते ही रहे। मैं भाई साहब को कभी नहीं भूल सकती। हमेशा मेरी पूरी फैमिली का भी कंसर्न रखते थे, मैं हमेशा दिल में याद रखूंगी। थैंक यू।
Hi, I'm Swati. Mamaji was the elder brother of my mom. But I can say that, like for me and for most of my family, my brothers and sisters back in India, he was more like a grandfather figure. He was our Nanaji. He would tell us stories about our family's past or the mom's childhood, all of them. And then he was the only one who would scold mom for us. He had to. So but growing up, I don't know. I had more interaction with him once I moved here. I could talk to him, and I remember when I got married and I moved to US in 2003. He was the first family member to visit me, and he wanted to check if I was happy, settled. So he came, and that's when I really got to know more about him. And I felt like he was even though generations older than me, but he was very modern in his, in his outlook towards life and his thoughts. And I specifically remember one incident. It was Halloween night, and we were sitting outside in a restaurant. It was very close to ASU, the Arizona State Fighting School. So, and there was a parade, and then college kids were dressed up in very weird costumes for me at that time. It was new to him as well. There were kids there was one kid who was in a bed sheet and just roaming around as emperor. Someone with snake hat, someone dressed up as hot air balloon, and he looked at them, and he was like, what is this? What's new with this generation? He was more he absorbed, and he was like, okay, आज मैंने सब कुछ देख लिया. It was he absorbed it. He was happy to see that, and that was Namaji. So and from that point, I could see that I could talk to him. I could anytime call him and talk to him about any topic. It was more friendlier way. And to date, I guess I'm gonna miss all those conversations we had after that. So gonna miss him. Namaji.
जय श्री कृष्ण. स्वर्गना आत्माने शांति મળે એ માટે એકાદ શ્લોક ગાઈશું અને પછી ભજન ગાઈશું. सूर्य को शक्ति रूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्ते 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 नमो नमः। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। इतना न करना स्वामी जब प्राण तन से निकले। इतना इतना तो करना स्वामी जब प्राण तन से निकले। श्री गंगा जी का तट हो, श्री गंगा जी का तट हो, यमुना का बंसीवट हो, मेरा सावरा निकट हो, मेरा सावरा निकट हो, जब प्राण तन से निकले। गोविंद नाम लेकर तब प्राण तन से निकले। पीतांबरी कसी हो, पीतांबरी कसी हो, छवि मन में बसी हो, होठों पे कुछ हंसी हो, जब प्राण तन से निकले। गोविंद नाम लेकर तब प्राण तन से निकले। जब कंठ प्राण आए, जब कंठ प्राण आए, कोई रोग ना सतावे, यम दर्श ना दिखाए, जब प्राण तन से निकले। गोविंद नाम लेकर तब प्राण तन से निकले। उस वक्त जल्दी आना, उस वक्त जल्दी आना, नहीं शाम भूल जाना, नहीं श्याम नहीं श्याम नहीं श्याम भूल जाना राधे को साथ लाना जब प्राण तन से निकले एक भक्त की है अर्जी एक भक्त की है अर्जी खुद गर्ज की है गलती आगे तुम्हारी मर्जी आगे आगे तुम्हारी मर्जी जब प्राण तन से निकले गोविंद नाम लेकर तब प्राण तन से निकले इतना तो करना स्वामी जब प्राण तन से निकले जब प्राण तन से निकले
Thank you for inviting me to be here. And when we talk about memories, there are just way too many memories. I will just say a few. And as Neha just said, I'm here because I'm daughter of his beloved friend, my dad. And he was part of the trio. Jaikrishan Mathuria, Tushar Purani, and Ashwin Patel, the bona fide lovers of English language. And that kept them together. Today we talk about passion, but if you had seen them debate, as Neha just explained, you will know how the men, they loved their craft. And there were a lot of similarities, but there were also a lot of differences between my uncle, Mathuria Kaka, and my dad. And Mathuria Kaka was so vibrant and live, and my dad, we had to drag him out, even out of the bed, just to go outside the house, forget about going on a trip. So all the travels that I've done in my childhood, it just is thanks to one person, and that is Mathuria Kaka. And all those trips that Neha talked about, Delhi, Elephanta, and all those, he really was always with us children. And because he had that energy and he had that vibrancy. And I remember one time when we were in Delhi and there was some scuffle and the roads shut down and the sightseeing places shut down. And we were all just into our hotel, stuck inside. And my father and Tushar Kaka were literally sitting on a table, sipping tea, doing crossword, and not thinking about all this bunch of teenagers who needed to vent their energy. And so Mathuria Kaka took us for a movie. And there are a lot of memories about just that movie. I can talk about it for 10 minutes itself. It was Maksad and Bichu and Nada and so many more things to go. But that was thanks to Mathuria Kaka. Another time, because we talk about memories, there are so many, but another one that I especially still remember was that one time we got in a bus and I think we didn't eat when we were supposed to and we really had to go somewhere and kids were hungry and how, the bunch of teenagers hungry, how to handle them. And so we got on a bus and suddenly Mathuria Kaka appears with 2 loaves of sandwich bread and bag of samosa. And he just sits on one of the seats and he just puts 2 bread together, shove a samosa and just start handing out. And that was the meal for the day. So one of the best meals that I ever had in my life came from Jaikrishan Mathuria. Probably he never enter the kitchen, although I don't know. So those are the things that just come to my mind when I think of his early memories. But I was too young to understand him as a man or as a person because, those were the days. But I got to know him more when all that kind of passed. I came to America, uncle at some point came to America, settled. I was a mother, I had lost my father, he had lost his dear friend. And without being asked, I think he basically took the role of my father. As Buaji was saying, he took care of me. He asked me all the questions. He'd ask about my work, how was I doing. And like any other Indian parent, he would also ask me how much I was making. And just to make sure that I was doing well. He would ask about my husband and how they were doing. And that's something that was our second phase of our relationship. And as someone earlier said, he liked to talk, and that's what we did. In last 15 years, I don't know how many countless hours, probably hundreds of hours, I had talked to him. And out of those 100 hours, there are few things that come to my mind. And one of him having this pride of lived a fulfilled life. He talked about his familial duties, getting younger sister married, moving all over, Rajasthan, Delhi, wherever they have been, and that pride that he had in a life well lived. It is, when we look around, it is not that easy to find these days. So that was one of the things. And second one, which is little hard for me to say, and I don't want to cause more pain than there is. But second one, but this would not be complete if I don't say it. And second thing that came up was when he talked about his wife, Arunanti. And whenever he talked about that, I would always say, Uncle, kya kar rahe ho? Abhi enough hai, aapko abhi kafi jeena hai. तो then he will say that, बच्चों तुम लोग क्यों मुझे यहाँ पे रोकते हो? मुझे अरुणा के पास जाना है. And having whatever I've done in my life and being proud, I think one of the most cherished moments in my life will be hearing an 80-year-old man talking about his wife with so much reverence. And he was that kind of a man. So even if I'm so sad, teary-eyed, trying to hold back tears, but I'm happy. I think he is where he wanted to be. So this is indeed a celebration. So when I think about being here, there are a couple of images that come to my mind. One is of that trio, my dad, Mathuria Kaka, and Tushar uncle up there somewhere, sipping a masala tea and debating about the pathetic state of English language, bending over LOLs and OMFGs and coffees, and I'm sure they're having a ball. And second image that comes to my mind is of Arunanti, and with her that calming smile that always she had on her face, just sort of humming to the tune of, Ghar Aaya Mera Pardeshi. So this is indeed a celebration of his life. He is where he wanted to be. So I'm happy for him. And thank you for making me part of this. And I think we share my memories.
Thank you, Shachi, for sharing such beautiful stories.
Yeah, thank you, Shachi, for sharing such beautiful stories. So among us, we have a very special guest from Dallas, and that is Tithi. Tithi is a granddaughter of Dad's neighbor and childhood friend, Asha Buaji. We have maintained the family friendship for 75 plus more years, generation after generation. We recently went to Dallas to attend Tithi's beautiful wedding, and Tithi would like to speak a few words. Please come.
Thank you for having me here. So I would like to share some memories I have about my Dadaji. So
all this started, when my daddy and my dadaji were, kids, and he supported my grandmother way back in 1960 when she was pursuing her education and her marriage, and he guided and motivated her all throughout her life. And it was only due to his effort that my Pua could get settled, she could get married, and even my parents, they first met in his place before their marriage, and he was like a godfather, guiding them and advising them on various matters throughout all walks of life. He was a very kind-hearted and loving person, and he used to worry about me also a lot. He used to call me every 15 days, kya chal raha hai, you should do this, you should do that, give me guidance about my married life. ऐसे नहीं करना, you need to make sacrifices. And due to his constant love and support, I never felt away from my family. I always felt that I had someone here that I can talk to, call up anytime. He lived a remarkable life, and that inspired me greatly. I got motivated to become someone like him. He was a great person who added so much to every life he touched. So with determination and his angelic grace, every challenge he happily embraced. From him I learned to be grateful, I count my blessings and be joyful. His gems of wisdom will constantly inspire me to see positive in everything, positive in the world. My family and I will always miss the love and warmth he showered on all of us. We will always cherish and treasure his memories. May your enlightened soul rest in eternal divine bliss. In all our hearts will forever live.
As some of you know, Ketki and I, with some of our friends, have been learning classical vocal. So we learned it at Bay Area Vaishnava Parivar, at the Vaishnava Temple here. And our guru is a magical person, Palapya. She's not here today, but we would like to have our class come in and sing a bhajan together. So whoever is here.
And thank you, Rajesh, for introducing us to our hobby that is becoming like a passion now. So, no turning back from there now. Moving on, we've been in US for about 25 years now, and many of our school friends, college friends, and friends from ORG system, that was our first job, they are all here. Most of them are here in Bay Area. We have kept very close friendship throughout, and Dad actually also kept very great relationship with all of our friends. A couple of ORG Days very closest friend, I would like to invite them on the stage. So Harihar Jobanputra and Shailesh Raichura will be saying a few words.
Before, I was thinking that I would start my speech, but then thanks to all those versions, I feel like at least one line that I believe, which, uncle kind of lived through pretty much. Ek jarman છે મને મારું જીવન સુગંધી બને, right? ફૂલ ટૂંકવાનું કે પછી ટૂંક પછડી થાવ, આશા છે સામગ્રી પૂજાની થાવ, right? So basically, Mathuria uncle, first is like, money sort of, over there, how he made it there one of the days in 91. And then, before we even figure out, how we're going to do our work, he's like, well, I'm going to get married. And they're like, are you serious? And one day he saws up with Daddy, and again, they're like, are you serious, right? So then, down the line, few days, I think your, parents, Neha, all visited, you were in the Nijampura home, I suppose. That was my first interaction with uncle and auntie at that time, right? And in that first interaction itself, what I came to know is that he is a very good teacher. He loves teaching, and everywhere he goes, he will imprint that, kind of the mind, right? So that was one thing, and some of you already said that, that all kind of connection with a lot of us probably came from that teaching, came from that, inner desire to make difference in every student that he can have. Right, so that was like my first interaction, and pretty much, stayed there. Then we came back to US, started our lives again, we all ended up in the Bay Area. And the second time when, we met, again it started with Rai, right? So that's the kind of connection. We had many, parties, many interactions, many things together. One thing that kind of I, would like to point out is that in about 10 years back, he was admitted in the Washington hospital, and the buyer, I went to, say hello to him, see him, right? And normally you go in the hospital, you have this, heavy mind and all, right? So we went there with this like that, let's go and see how uncle is doing. Before we say even anything or ask anything, uncle, how are you and all, right? As usual, he, started interviewing she asked few questions to file, and then, as always, like, खाने के लिए बुलाओ तब पता चलेगा ना ये सब his weird style. And then after the 15 minutes of his inquiries of us that how we were doing, we had a final chance to say, uncle, how are you doing and what happened and all. So that's the kind of personality that you are looking at here. And then the last event that is kind of stands out literally is happened when we had a last Diwali party at one of the friends' place. And I have twins, 2 boys who are juniors in high school, right? So pretty much, during that party, few things that, I knew and my boys came to know was, something that I would want to share. One is that he was immensely proud of your education, Manish, Neha, and you all kids who are sitting here. So he was really proud, and you all probably know, right? So Archit Anand was talking with him, right? And pretty much, he explained that starting with Manish how, good you all were in what you were doing and how education is important in life and all that. And pretty much when the boys, normally, teenagers, when they talk with some elderly person, chances are that they will not tell you when you leave the place, right? But my kids made a point to tell me that, how intense that conversation was and how uncle was trying to explain to them that it is important, education is very important, and how you can make, most out of it when you leverage available resources that you have. So those are, few memories I would definitely want to share. Is that Ari?
Jai Jinendra, Jaikrishan. I'm Jain Putra, Manish and Ketki's friend from first job from YG Systems in India. I'm one of many fortunates who are here to get to know Uncle and get his support throughout the life. Many years I have known him, and with all these years, I consider him as a parent. He will always advise, as many of you mentioned, that he will not wait for it or not wait for our call. He will call ahead of us. I've known him for almost like 24 years when they lived in Union City at home. Varun and Janak were very young. Janak is my son, who it was almost same age. And Uncle used to bring Varun and Rohan to Ardenwood for park and swimming and whatnot. And of course, as usual, he will take Janak also along with him in different rides and everything he will do. There are many memories, but it will go on for many. But I would like to share only a couple of them here. One of the weekend, Uncle calls up in the morning and says, "Hari, come over for breakfast." Okay, I go there, and I had never had such a tasty breakfast, and that was nagori puri. This is the first time I have ever had that nagori puri. I did not even know such dish existed. Of course, Uncle made a nice thing, but Ketki and Manish have been graceful enough to also share a few more times afterwards. And they also make very good tasty nagori puri. One of the So Uncle, the other thing is about Uncle. Uncle remembered each one of us with very unique capability of us and our uniqueness and our family also. Uncle had a very good observation skills, really. It means he will know things which you don't know about yourself because you are behaving unconsciously those things. So you don't know those things. So in early, like a third year only or fourth year when I knew him, within that only he shared something about me which I had not known. But it's very true, and I am very proud of that too. But it was not something which he had pulled out from somewhere, but it was a very good thing. But it was very unconsciously I was doing it, and he's like, "Hey, this is you." And anytime this happens, I will know this is you. Anyway, despite of his health challenges, Uncle set an example for all of us aging kids. All of us aging kids, not these kids, to live life happily, enjoy every possible moment, spend life with family and friends. We made a point to meet him whenever we meet in a friend's party gathering, and also a couple times visiting him at home and like that. We will remember his cheerful, joyous, loving, and caring nature. And all those conversations, I will miss those. Every party, I will look forward to having that conversation, really. So I'm grateful to Ketki and Manish for giving me this opportunity to share my memories with people. Thank you.
Thank you, Hari, Rai. It's wonderful. Next, I would like to introduce one more circle of friends whom we call Jigri or Jigarjan. That means closest to heart. And these are the set of friends. There are no walls among us. They are always there for us to celebrate the happiest moments of our lives. But they are even before us when we are in any difficult moments. During the past few months, each and every member of this Jigri circle came home individually to spend one-on-one time with Dad. And Dad was extremely fond of this set of people. In fact, the very last moments where Dad was hospitalized, Manish and I were not here. So it was these Jigri friends who were with Neha and our kids that during the last moments of Dad's. And Dad, I would like to invite Dolly to say a few words on behalf of.
Thank you, Keki, Manish, Gautam, Neha, for this opportunity to share a few words about Uncle and our relationship with Uncle. Heather and I moved here somewhere in 1999, and we were extremely kind of lonely without our parents. We both very close to our parents, and when we moved here, some of these friends and their parents that we met at the first Diwali party, we were like extremely happy to see them, and it always felt like we were drawn more towards their parents in a bigger gathering than our friends themselves, because we could meet them otherwise. I have a lot of memories similar to Harira and others over here, but few of them kind of stand out to us, especially me and my husband. It was around 2002 or so, and we had gone to Yosemite for hiking. It was our first time over there, and I just had a bout of asthma that day. And we had to all climb up to one of the falls. And we were making our way through. My husband was slowly going with us. I remember Nisha being with us too. And we were trying to kind of get there. And we see Mathuria uncle with the kids coming back. And we had barely made it to the first level, the lower falls. And Mathuria uncle was like, "Oh, you guys are still here. You have a long ways to go up there." And we were like, "Uncle, so you went to the lower falls and I'm coming back." He said, "No, I went to the upper falls. I went there and I'm coming back. But you should keep going." Rather than making us feel bad about it, he's like, "You should keep going. It's only 10 more minutes to the lower falls. And upper falls, it's kind of hard." Now, I have made it to upper falls by now, and it is not as easy as he made it sound at that time. And that was Uncle. He was always encouraging. Every time he met us, somehow, I feel biased about it. I felt like he really liked hanging out with me, so he always had positive things to say. Like, he always made it feel like he enjoyed meeting me. So there were times when he would praise me for things I had not even done. So I have a feeling that he was biased to me on some levels. There is another incident that was very touching to us, and that was last year. Mona and Ritesh were celebrating their anniversary, and we were practicing our dance at Ketki's home. And it worked out because Mathuria uncle was extremely sick at that time, and we thought that it was a great opportunity. Instead of trying to kind of say, "Oh, he would get disturbed," rather, let's go there so he would find our company and we would get to see him every day while we practiced. And every time we would go and meet him and we would say, "Uncle, why don't you come and check out our dance right now? Let us know where we're going wrong, how we're doing." He's like, "I don't want to see this half-baked dance. I want to see the final finale. When you're all dressed up and doing it properly rather than making all these mistakes. So I don't want to see it right now. So I'll actually come to the event." And he was so sick. During the time, I remember him being taken back to the hospital during that time. And like a couple of times, not even once. A day before he was hospitalized, and we didn't even think that Ketki and Ganesh would be able to make it to the event. But sure enough, on the day of the event, at the party at my place, Uncle was there. And we thought he would show up for a few minutes to see us, but no. He spent all the time over there, had the chaat and the puri pakodi and everything that was there, and enjoyed himself. And so that was the kind of person he was. Like, nothing stopped him. And though he was sick and we all knew that, there was never a time we felt as if he had to have special attention for it or anything. The last point that I remember, and I will always remember about Uncle, is that he used to like the dal that my cook used to make, not me, but he always gave me credit for it. And, and so he would always ask me to like bring him the dal. But last time when I met him, during the time he was very sick, he said, "Kya kha ke aaya?" And I said, "Idli sambar." He said, "Mere liye le aati." So I said, "Okay, fine." And then Neha said, "Papa, we make it at home too." "Nahi, Dolly ko leke aane dega." So, and then he goes into, "Kaun se chawal ki idli banati ho?" And I'm like a little flabbergasted at that time because I hardly, I know a few things, but I knew where this conversation was going. And that was like, you warned of Uncle when he starts interrogating you. And he's like, "Kaun se chawal ki banati ho?" So I said, "Uncle, वैसे तो white rice की बनाती थी, लेकिन अभी brown rice की बनाती थी." लेकिन white और brown में भी फर्क तो होता है ना कि white में भी बासमती होता है, सोना मसूरी होता है. I'm like, okay, this is not going to get me in the right place. So finally I was कि नहीं, अभी तो brown rice की और बिरयानी के लिए मैं बासमती यूज करती हूँ. बिरयानी के लिए तो खैर बासमती यूज करना होता है ना, बाकी कौन सा यूज करना होता है. So those kind of things, like the amount of detail he could go into every topic he was talking to you about was amazing. And so it cannot be the broad stroke answers that I'm typically used to. You have to actually be prepared to be sitting across from Uncle and kind of answer to him. I still cannot believe that he's no longer with us. I still talk as if I'm going to actually have yet another conversation with him, but he'll stay with us. And I've known Keki and Manish, and also a little bit of Neha. And I feel there are elements of Uncle that are there, except for the interrogative piece of it. I think somebody else will have to fill up for that. But he'll be missed, but he lives through them. And I look forward to sharing a lot of other memories and telling a lot more of his stories in our times together.
So I wanted to sing a song that my dad loved. We'll be singing this song, and there's yet another song that he really loved, but this one also he loved. This song has a very nice message in it, and like he said, he loved good songs with good poetry. So next, I have some very special people coming up. There are some people who are so ingrained in our lives, right? They are friends, relatives, siblings, gurus, a lot of things all at the same time, right? I cannot imagine our lives without them. Rutesh and Mona are two such people. They have a special relationship of love and respect, not just with us, but the same relationship with my dad as well. My dad always considered both of us blessed to have friends that we have. I would like both of you to come and share that special relationship that you had with my dad.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jaikrishan. The name has the chanting of the God built into it. When I think about Uncle, this is one of the first English professors that I saw and met that always talked to me in Hindi. I think he was a proud Indian, and almost everything that I think I'll talk about our interactions was actually in Hindi. When I think about Uncle, he was like parent to me. My dad passed at a very early age, and he was always like a parent to me. The three things come to mind when I think about Uncle. He was head of a straight shooter. I think you saw some of the guys talking about it. He was an energetic elder. I think the kind of energy that he had was very infectious overall when you talk to him. And I think that runs in his family. And he was an epitome of selflessness as I knew him. So let's talk a little bit about he being a straight shooter, right? I still remember in 1996 when I and Mathuria decided to start our first company, Arsen, and I was there to meet with him, and he would tell us, "मुझे मालूम नहीं तुम दोनों कैसे business करोगे." To when we started InfoStretch, during the first puja in our office, he actually was part of the puja. He again said that you guys make a good pair. Let us see now what you do. So you had to have all your guards on when you actually are talking to Mathuria Uncle. This is also another thing between me and him. I call Manish, also Mathuria when we are alone. And when I'm in his home, I call Mathuria and he would actually respond. And say, it's not the only Mathuria that you know of. So fast forwarding to this last Christmas when Manish and his family was visiting India, we actually got a chance to spend good time with them. And this is the first time he actually completely unsolicited tells me that मैं बहुत खुश हूँ तुम लोगों से अच्छे बिजनेस पार्टनर तो हो ही but तुम अच्छे दोस्त भी हो जो हमेशा नहीं होता. He always said what he truly felt without any filter, but supported us from his heart no matter what he said on your face. His blessings will take us far, I believe, in future. Second thing, he being an energetic elder in the family, I think Dolly talked about, but this is really true story, right? We were preparing to hike Half Dome, the whole families, both the sides family. I think Mona didn't make it, some things, but we were whole family climbing. And Uncle actually decides to go on a practice round with us to Yosemite. And this is the story that Dolly just said that, when we were climbing up to the Vanul Fall and the lower and upper Yosemite Falls, he will be one of the first few guys who get there. Not only he'll get there, but he'll actually have Rohan along with him. That he's holding him and climbing. So his readiness for participation in outdoor activities, I think you can see in some of those videos even in last few days playing golf. Activities was unmatched for his age. I don't even know I'll be able to make that kind of movement when I'm that old. He was truly an energetic elder in the family, ready to take on any challenge. Last but not the least, an epitome of selflessness. I can't even imagine the pain that he may be going through the last few months or days and maybe years. I heard many stories from Manish, so I asked him one fine day during the Christmas discussion that we had, how do you cope up with the pain? He being smart enough to continue the conversation, he actually raised the thread and said, instead of answering that question, he answered, ये तो हर रोज का हो गया, कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, तू बता तेरा कैसे चल रहा है? Right? So that was him. He would be completely selfless, and then we almost had an hour-long conversation about his kids visiting India and how he loved them. So it's really important to see that he was completely selfless man. I think he has not only made himself from where he was to get taking care of his family members and others, but he was a big blessing for us all. We will cherish his positive attitude towards life, love for his grandkids, and smile on his face. The life lesson Uncle has given us will be with us forever. May his soul rest in peace and continue to shower blessing on all of us. Jai Shri Krishna. I think today most of you know that it's his birthday, so wishing him his last happy birthday.
Jaikrishan. Uncle to me was not only a respected elder, but a very good friend. We used to joke around a lot. We English shared a very special bond. I would say we had a mutual admiration. What I loved about him that he could critique and admire both wholeheartedly. Just a month back, just recently, I went to just spend time with him one evening. He loved my Chinese food. So I took some Chinese for him and I just said, Uncle, कैसा लगा? Then he said, अच्छा है, लेकिन वो बात नहीं. तेरा असली Chinese नहीं है. And like, of course, he ate, and of course he ate pramsel. So that was him. That day he told me his entire life story, all his triumph and tribulation, and I'm going to cherish those memories forever. He was very proud of all his kids and grandkids. He was proud of Manish, his work, and his friendship with Udesh. But I guess he had some doubts about how Ketki and I would get along. And he would have no problem sharing those doubts. He always used to tell me, Manish and Rutesh, partner तो है, but क्या उनका friendship है? फिर भी वो तो ठीक है. But you and Ketki, मैंने नहीं सोचा था. I'm like, Uncle. But so with his blessings, and we'll continue to be peace in a pod. What I loved the most about him that he was very fond of and extremely encouraging to Ketki. He used to say all the time, Manish तो ठीक है, but बच्चे का तो सब केतकी ने किया है, उनका ही smartness आया है. So it just felt so good to hear those plays. And one incident I really remember very fondly, I guess long back. On one of his birthday, he asked Preeti, our other friend, that I want to give a surprise to my babu. And so with her help, he really pulled off very well. Do you remember that? Yeah. So, and he also loved those Raman's chai. I don't know if you guys know Raman's chai from Half Moon Bay, and so did I. And so first time he had that tea, the instant reaction was, वाह, क्या चाय मजा आ गया. हम तो घर में कड़ा पीते हैं. And all his reactions were epic. There are so many such memories we will continue to cherish. He was a fighter and faced all challenges with no self-pity. And I hope we learn to live with same resilience and positive attitude, and that would be his real Shraddhanjali. Jai Shri Krishna.
Hi everyone, I'm Varun, Manish's son and my Dadaji's oldest grandson. Having my Dadaji as a grandfather was really great for many reasons, but one of the reasons was he was an English professor, so he spoke fluent English. So over the years, I was able to have many great conversations and moments with him. My mom's parents they're also great, but they don't speak English, and I don't speak Gujarati very well. I understand, but so there's that disconnect. So with my mom's parents, the longest conversation we could have would be like, Kemcho, Majama, Tame Kemcho, Nani, Bas Majama. And that was it. But with Dadaji, we can trade stories and I can ask him questions. and I just loved hearing about his life. One thing that always amazed me about Dadaji was he had so much enthusiasm for his life and he enjoyed everything. I remember him telling me about his early life with 11 brothers and sisters, or 10 other brothers and sisters. And when the family made a bad investment at some point and lost all their wealth, they were so poor they didn't have money for food. But he told me the story with the same enthusiasm as if he was describing his own wedding. He viewed the good and bad in his life equally. It was all a part of the same life. Even in his later days, when he had serious health troubles and was in pain, he stayed positive and engaged. He was very satisfied with his life. He had been all the places he needed to go, done all the things he wanted to do. He had 2 successful kids. All his affairs were taken care of. Even a few years before he passed, he told me he had nothing left to live for, but he meant that in a good way. He meant he had lived his life to the fullest. But he did tell me he wanted to live long enough to see my wedding. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that happen for him. But what I do want to do is, down the road someday, I will name my son after him, Jaikrishan Mathuria. But I will probably go with Jai for short so that white people can pronounce his name. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, Dadaji was truly a principled person, and he had a unique character. I've learned a lot from him, so I'd like to share some thoughts and anecdotes about him. So first, he was very opinionated, and he never hesitated to share his thoughts. So whenever I drove him anywhere, he always told me, here's the shortest path to get here, don't go down this road, go down this road instead. And he also would play pool a lot, and he would watch me playing pool as well. And so then he would always tell me, oh, you're taking this shot wrong, you're hitting the ball too hard. He always gave me that sort of critique. But he also gave me invaluable advice for my choice of college, my job, and general life advice. I think he had a very strong idea about how people should live their lives, and he never hesitated to give that sort of advice out. And sometimes, I would heed his advice carefully. Sometimes, especially when it came to playing pool, I would sort of nod along and ignore it. But most people aren't so honest, and most people filter their opinions based on who they're around. Dadaji didn't care. If he saw a problem, or if he thought an improvement could be made, he would always speak up. I think that's one of the reasons why it was so easy for him to connect with all the people around him. Dadaji was also very strong. So I remember once I was at home, and he came to me, he said he has trouble breathing. So my first reaction was, let's call an ambulance. But he says, no, it's fine, just take me to the hospital, or take me to urgent care. So I couldn't drive at the time. So I had to call him an Uber. So I called him the Uber, and then he got into the front, and I got in the back. Then the ride passed on in silence. We got to the hospital, and then I got out to help him out, because he was having trouble getting out of the car. And then he looked at me very surprised that I was there. He thought that I left him and to go to the Uber alone. And so then I was there, and then he asked, what are you doing here? And he kept telling me, go home, I don't need you here, you don't have anything to do here. And this was when he was having trouble breathing, and he couldn't walk up the stairs, but his first reaction was not to care about that sort of stuff. So he was very, very self-reliant in that way. And eventually, I helped him into the hospital by just taking him there. And then he still, I was helping him with the paperwork, he still was saying, go home, I don't, you don't need to be here, I can take care of myself, that sort of thing. So that, I think, is really true to his character. Self-reliance was such a core virtue to him that even in situations where anybody else would accept help, he still didn't want it. But he also consistently put others before himself. He was compassionate, and he was always willing to help others. And he cared so much about his family and the people around him. And he passed peacefully, content with the knowledge that his family was comfortable and happy. Seeing everyone here and hearing everyone's stories, I can tell that he's had a deep impact on all of our lives. Thank you.
most of my strongest memories of Nanaji are from my childhood, when I think even though we were decades apart, we shared the same happiness and sort of zeal for life. And that's really how I remember all of the times that I spent with him as a kid, just his happiness and how energetic he was. So I remember once when I was probably around like 3 or 4, he took me to the park and he spent the afternoon just pushing me on the swings there. And so he'd count to 3 in Hindi, ek do, and then like even he'd let go. And even though I grew up listening to my parents speak to each other in Hindi, hearing Nanaji count as he pushed me was actually how I learned to count in Hindi. But I only know up to 3, so that's probably not a very good counter. So that memory stands out to me because with every swing, I knew what was coming. I knew he'd let go on 3, but I was never bored with it. And that's how I choose to remember him, strong enough to push me on the swings for hours, and he never let on if he was tired or bored of that routine so that my fun as a kid wouldn't be ruined. And I think everyone here has mentioned how selfless he was, but as a kid I didn't really notice that or pay attention to it, but looking back, that's something I'm really grateful for. So as I got older, the types of interactions I had with him shifted. My family moved to New York across the country, and later with middle school and high school, the work started picking up, so it felt like there was a little more distance between us. But Nanaji was very, very perceptive, as I think everyone has noticed. And it still felt like he knew me well enough to notice things that I had left unspoken. But everyone who knew him also knew that he didn't really have a filter. So whatever I left unspoken didn't really stay that way for very long. And he often said things and asked questions that other people were probably afraid to ask me. And that was something that I valued because it showed me what kind of a bond we had as family, where love and care was assumed even if it came across really bluntly. And yeah, that's how I choose to remember him.
Hi, I'm Ashni. I'm the youngest grandchild. So Dadaji, he has always been part of my life. Some of my favorite memories of my early elementary school years were of Dadaji walking me home from school or taking me to the park in the evenings. And like whenever I was upset, whether it was about a fight that I had with my brothers, which happened often, or about a problem that I had in school, he would tell me a story that not only calmed me down, but it always gave me the wisdom that I needed to solve my problems. And just as he told me stories, I have so many to share with him. Some of them are funny, and like my brother mentioned, if he saw any improvement, he wouldn't hesitate to mention it or point it out. So I remember once I got dressed up for a party, and the moment I came downstairs, he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, you used to be so pretty." Or when I decided on a college, he couldn't figure out how to pronounce Carnegie Mellon, no matter how many times I said it. So we finally got to Cameron Mellon, and we left it at that. But I want to share a more serious memory of my relationship with him. So the last story he told me was the story of how my parents met. And as many of you might know, my parents faced a lot of difficulties in getting married and in moving to America to start a new life, but they succeeded in spite of the opposition that they faced. And I think the reason that he told me this story was to tell me that even through huge changes in our lives, love can get us past any obstacle. And just like my parents did, I'm facing a big change now, as I'm going to be moving across the country for college in a few months, but I know that the love and generations of memories that he left me with will stay with me always and will help me get through any difficulty that I face. And someday I hope to share the stories of life lessons that he gave me with my own grandchildren. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Kanisha, I'm Kiki Masi's niece. So I moved to the United States 4 years ago for my undergrad, and I lived with the family for 2 years. So when I first came here and was trying to fit in, it was really nice to have Dadaji at home to talk to. He was very supportive, and he encouraged me to work harder. I never felt homesick, and he helped me assimilate faster. He was quite a storyteller. He loved sharing stories from different phases of his life. He remembered all the details and would say with the same enthusiasm. All the stories were very motivating, and I enjoyed listening to them. And he would take a personal interest in people from all walks of his life. So even after I moved to LA, he would call me every month or two to know my new developments, and he would be delighted to hear about my new achievements. So he had an amazing quality to find pleasure in other people's happiness, and his spirit for life was very inspiring, and I hope to have learned something from him.
Naya
raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Such a great choice of song, Rushali, and you sang so well. Amazing voice. It'll be hard for me to follow you. I'll try. Happy birthday, Dad. It has been 3 long weeks. I have not lived away from you for this long, in so many years now. I'm not used to not talking to you. I still hear you. Your voice is in my mind all the time. I had a very special bond with Dad. I came from a small family. 1 mama, 1 masi, 1 foi, 2 kaka, and 10 cousins, 10 first cousins in total. I was a blank slate for the role of a daughter-in-law in a large Mathuria family of 7 sets of mamajis and mausijis and 10 sets of buajis and chachajis and 50 plus first cousins. Newly married with brand new job and big dreams, we went to live in Baroda right after our marriage. We came home every weekend and to home, and on those 2 years, Mom slowly groomed me, showed me and inspired me what it means to be a first bahu, a first daughter-in-law of our Mathuria family. Mom left us suddenly, leaving Manish, Neha and I in the custody of Dad. And my new relationship emerged with Dad from that point on. We came to live in US. Neha came soon after, and Dad moved there as well shortly after. Dad helped us raising our 3 kids and our puppy Snowball. Manish's mom was an amazing cook. I learned cooking from Mom, but I could not make cooking my passion like Mom had. So Dad took that role for our family. He learned to cook. He always kept an eye for new recipes. Punjabi, Gujarati, South Indian dishes. For grandkids, he learned to cook American food. When kids came from school, there were grilled toast for Varun, mushroom toast for Rohan, and mac and cheese, just the way Ashni likes it. And by the way, every day there would be a new menu, so it would repeat for days. Dad loved me a lot. He exaggerated every small thing, and he bragged about me all the times. He was fond of me and I was crazy about him. If I have to give a name to our relationship, I would describe it as a relationship of friendship, mutual admiration, mentor and mentee, and a father and daughter. We were always close, but we came even closer towards the end. Just a week before he passed, Dad and I went for a long drive. After coming back from one of his doctor's appointments, he was very philosophical that day, and he asked me, Ketu, tell me, what's the point of this life? Going to doctors, ERs, hospitals all the time. Tell me, why should I live? And I told him, Dad, I don't have a big analytical answer to your question, but you should live because I love you. And that was the only time in my life I directly told him that I loved him. And I'm so glad that I did. That I always loved you and I always will do. I'm imagining you with Mom now sharing all wonderful stories since the time she had left. Starting from Neha's wedding, all the way to meeting Varun's girlfriend and everything in between. May you and Mom always shower your blessing upon us. Thank you. Oh, one quick thing. I would like to acknowledge very special people in our lives as well as of Dad's life. Auntie Ji, if you can stand up. Auntie Ji took care of Dad like anything. And so she cooked all amazing food exactly the way Dad loved. And Dad would criticize her still to make it to perfection, and Auntie would do it exactly the way Dad wants every time. And so is her husband Uncle Ji also took immense care of Dad, giving him countless rides, and they are an integral part of our family. And we love you, Auntie and Uncle Ji, so much. Thank you so much.
I'm going to sing a small bhajan. जो बचे हरि को सदा सोही परम पद पावेगा सोही परम पद पावेगा जो बचे हरि को सदा जो बचे हरि को
I guess I'm here to talk about my dad, and I really don't know where to start. What does one remember about one's dad? What does one not? I remember his fun side and his energy. He would hoist us on his shoulders, and the world just looked better from up there. He could lift us on his feet, swing us in a towel. He taught us to climb mountains and come down without hurting our knees. He planned and organized every summer trip. We went on trips every single summer. And he planned and organized every single one of them. And on weekends, there was a day that he didn't want my mom to cook, and so every Sunday we would go out for dinner and a movie. And no matter how busy his life and their lives were, and no matter what the financial constraints were, that never stopped. We never wanted for anything. I remember he and I would talk for hours and hours about literature, poetry, movies, and songs. Rishali before you, he was the original Shakespeare quoter for me. He and my mom worked in perfect harmony, the kind that they can only dream to accomplish. Their relationship was what ideal marriages are made of, and he missed her terribly, terribly after her untimely death. As Katie said, I think he's very happy right now that he's with her. He could never be idle, and many people here that have known him for years would remember him playing cards the old-fashioned way. All my friends still talk about that. Yet he had a very humble and quiet dedication to everything he did. His work as a college professor that even today his students remember with great fondness and respect. His attention to detail in everything he undertook. Extracurriculars for his college and the many weddings he and my mom planned for his younger siblings. He took on responsibilities at a very young age and fulfilled them with pride and selflessness. We lived in a modest one-room home, and he and my mom taught us not to care for material things, but for people. No task was difficult for him. He, who had never set foot in the kitchen when my mom was alive, learned to cook the most exotic dishes after her, just so that he could continue to fulfill her love of cooking for the family. He smiled through everything. I often thought back when I heard his stories that while I saw what he went through as adversity, he saw it as an adventure. I remember when he fractured his hand after tripping on our dog, and he said to me, "Oh God, that breaks the monotony of my life." Even as he suffered through chronic illness, his positive spirit and enthusiasm were untarnished. He was, and will always be, my role model, an ideal in how to live life. I love him immensely. I was a true daddy's daughter, and I always will be, and I will miss him more than I can convey in words. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I would like to say a few words in my dad's memory. I don't know where to start. My earliest memories of my dad was that I used to be a little scared of him. He was a very short-tempered person, so you didn't know when he would set off, right? And but later I learned to deal with it. I learned that if you reasoned with him, right, his short temper used to be like a very short fuse, right? It would go off and then it would come down immediately. So looking back, right, I think the lesson I learned from it was from him, and I think I'm still learning, is how to live in the moment. I think he did it very well. My mom did it very well, but they didn't learn to live in the moment. we lived in a very modest house throughout my school years, right? We lived in a one-room house, even though we were not poor, right? We did well, but my dad and my mom made it a job for them to settle down all our aunts and uncles and get them married and everything. So we really didn't have much spare, but they always lived in a moment. They always kind of worried about what's today and lived that particular part of their life like a duty. I think I certainly learned from that how to put, the friends, family, and community, and really Mother Nature above all of us, about material values. And I try to still follow that. I think I feel like dads are like old wine. They grow on you over time. And it takes a little bit of maturity. Once you mature, you understand really your dads really well. I feel like I was slow to mature until 20s, my mid-20s. My parents had everything figured out for me, right? So I really didn't have any adversities or anything like that. And I think around that I started to appreciate the right mix of that life is a mix of complexities, pain, and you to live it with passion, joy, and sacrifice. And I feel like somehow kind of them not putting me through all these adversities earlier, right, really made me a very positive person. And I think it taught me how to only think good in life and not worry about anything that can anything wrong that can happen to you. And if you really, I feel like he felt like that, and if you feel like that, then nothing really can go wrong with you. Like several of you talked about, right? You have to kind of learn from him. For him, like his words of expression and his thoughts in the mind were the same thing, right? He would tell you exactly what he's thinking in his mind, right? So he would kind of tell you whether he knew you or not, or he would kind of tell you you're not looking good today, right? And he would say that in a very, very matter of fact way. And I think that's the kind of person he was. I could go on and on, right? From talking about my memories of him and what I learned from him. So I think just like several of you said, we'll always remember him for his positivity, his resilience, for living in the moment, and living a life of a purpose for the society and not for yourself. Until the very end, right? His final sentiments about life were that I've kind of like lived my purpose, and since now I've lived my purpose, there is no point in me living anymore. And that I think that he thought in a very healthy, in a very positive way, and we were a little puzzled with the way he was thinking, but we sort of learned to understand where he was coming from and really appreciate that thought process. I really feel that someday, when I'm not around, I would be remembered with half the values that we are remembering him. Everybody here is remembering him for, and with that, I certainly want to thank all of you for coming here today. I know it's not, you took time from your valuable part of your Sunday, and we would, now have dinner, so please have dinner with us before you leave. Dinner would be served in the kitchen across the hall from here. Thank you again. Thank you very much.